Heyo, welcome into the CHGO White Sox Podcast, presented by DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook. Download the app and use promo code CHGO when you sign up. Was it teal, Lawrence?
I don't think so.
It wasn't teal. I'm teal today, so I think that's why I went with teal.
We'll use the teal in a couple hours when we do bets together.
Oh, okay, there we go. I'm Sean Anderson. You can follow me on Twitter at Sean_W_Anderson. Along with me today is Herb Lawrence.
Hello.
You can follow him on Twitter at Ecknerwall23. He's our CHGO White Sox community leader. We are being produced today by The Law Dog.
This is so weird being here. It's so weird.
What's up, Lawrence?
Hi, I haven't been on a Sox show in 6 months.
Well, and honestly, I'm
Anything
very
good or bad happen this season?
I'm very happy to have you on because you are the number one TLR hater that I know.
Hell yeah.
So I'm very glad that you have this day, that you could celebrate this.
It's the best day ever.
White Sox fans could celebrate this. Who's your daddy is asking in the comments, do we know how to pronounce Grifol yet? So that's how we have met Pedro Grifol. I just did it again.
Yeah.
All right. So Vinnie will be joining us from Guarantee Ray Field. He talked to the man today, and we'll get updates for that.
I think it's Grifol.
It's two words. It's the pronunciation guide that they put out. It's two words, GRIF in little little letters, and then in big letters it was full. So I would say Grifol.
Okay, those are not words. Those are called syllables.
I failed that class.
Pronunciation guides, it's not words. Those are just syllables.
In second grade, I had passing honors and everything else. Pronunciation and what's it called? Phonics? Phonics? Yeah, I failed phonics.
Yeah.
Wow.
So this whole thing, you put the wrong person in charge here. But Grifol. Pedro Grifol. And that's who we met today, the 42nd manager of the Chicago White Sox. Herb, early impressions are?
Awesome. Just
Look what AJ's saying.
a difference between the emotions you saw that Rick Hahn had when he had to introduce Tony La Russa, and today, mercy. I tell you what, I've never seen a man more happy. Like, I don't know what his wedding pictures look like, but look similar. That man was cheesing from ear to ear when he got to hire Pedro Grifol. And speaking of the man himself, Pedro, I mean, how better to start off with a great story about his family with his wife and his 3 daughters having to tell them when, like, 10 years ago, hey, I'm thinking about being a guy that's out of the office from being a draft guy?
Was, I think it was front office scout.
And to being a minor league manager. Like he said there was a big time money difference where you're in the office, you're making real money, and you can live a comfortable life in Phoenix at the time. And then he said you have to downshift if I'm a minor league manager, because I'll be making less money. You won't be seeing me as much because then I got to go to do winter ball in different Caribbean countries. And so are you guys good with that? And his daughter said, how can you ask us and tell us to chase our dreams when you're not chasing your own? I was like, heartwarming, melted. Farm director, thank you, guys.
Yes.
Yeah, how can you chase your dreams? Tell us to chase our dreams when you're not chasing your own. And for his daughters to have that wisdom at that age and to tell their daughter and tell their dad to give them permission to do all these things. What a beautiful story. What a family man. That is a great story. I want to root for the man now. I'm invested in him because of that's how we started the presser off. I love it. It's a beautiful thing. And what he had to say about marrying analytics with regular baseball gut stuff, beautiful. I love it. I love the...
Didn't we just hear that with Tony La Russa? I don't care about that much.
No. He said he has observational analytics, that which told me that he's throwing all the shit about analytics away immediately. Observational analytics meant his gut feeling. That was what he was talking about. No, this guy's actually done it. He's got the bona fides, and he knows when and when not to do it. He said it would lay the foundation for how they prepare for the games. Analytics would. Yeah. And I was like, beautiful. Finally. We're into the 21st century, finally.
But if any manager's not saying that in a press conference, I want them, out in the town square. Like they don't need to be manager anymore. All right.
Exactly.
So, and I wasn't a big fan of the last guy. All right. I made that very clear that I wasn't a big fan of the last guy.
I don't think anybody was at the beginning. I think the very few White Sox fans like, oh, I remember 83 and he got a raw deal in 86. let's bring him back. And there were a couple people like that. For the majority of the people, they hated the hiring. This one, Pedro Grifol, mercy. I tell you what, it's just a breath of fresh air from a person I never heard of before the month of October. It seems like he is the right fit, and you could tell that this was Rick's hire. Right. This was Rick's hire right here. He feels great about the man he brought in and the manager he brought in.
Yeah, and there was a couple of moments where you just saw him actually like beaming and having this huge smile on his face. And I don't want to compare it too much to the Tony La Russa introductory press conference because of many different circumstances. One of them was on Zoom. One of them was during COVID, right? It was a little bit different. So I bet it was probably just a stressful day for Rick, where this one, listening to Pedro Grifol, that's an adult. That is somebody that just understands it. That is somebody who has gone through everything in their life. Fantastic communicator. I know I kept joking about that. Like, it seems like every candidate was a fantastic communicator. But this guy, I could listen to him talk for days. I mean, he's really interesting. And that's the thing is, I don't think he's interesting in a very boring way. He's just very competent, which is something I very much appreciate. Tony La Russa was a train wreck. You weren't sure what he was going to say, what direction he was going to go in. You weren't sure what his answers were going to be. You weren't sure what rationale he was going to use. You won't get this Pedro Grifol, 1-2 intentional walk stuff, right? You should get a manager who's going to do things by the books, which is what I love. And what I think that he'll be able to do is explain his rationale very easily. So even if he does have a analytical, reason, or he has a gut feeling reasoning, he'll be able to explain that, which I'm going to be very appreciative of. I do love the comment from AJ in the chat saying Big Griff, also first nickname for Pedro Grifol. I also like, since we have Foal in the last name, maybe we could work in some like young deer stuff in here. But Big Griff, he's so excited about him, and he's already excited to go to war for Pedro Grifol. So I kind of feel a little bit in a similar way. I know it's competency. I know it's kind of a little bit boring, but like after what we just had, I'm very excited about boring.
And I don't know if you guys caught this, but I know he's from Miami, so he's from the same area. But he sounds just like Alex Rodriguez to me. You close your ears or close your eyes and just listen. To me, his cadence and how his words come out. I was like, is that Alex Rodriguez is our new manager?
I would say he's a little less robotic than Alex, and he's definitely more warm. Like, there's just something to Alex where it just feels like, even his laugh, it's like, like, it's just like, he's like Woody the fucking Woodpecker, where Pedro just seems like very,
I want Pedro Grifol to go up to this White Sox groundskeeper and introduce himself and say, hello, Roger Bozard. And I want to hear that put to a test and put on audio so Chris Tannehill can play it time and time again. Hello, Roger Bozard.
We got to get on that. We got to get a clip of A-Rod speaking, then a clip of Pedro Grifol speaking here.
Did I ruin it for you, Melissa?
What did she say?
She said, oh, gosh, Herb, I hate A-Rod.
Yeah, I mean, most people do, and I mean, A-Rod's Jerry's buddy.
He'll be your new owner after Jerry shuffles off.
I don't know about that.
Oh boy.
We have the picture of Pedro in his uniform. This was the other very, very minor story before we get into the stuff that he had to say outside of the story that he had. And again, my reaction to that was, he had me crying with that story about his kids. Just like, I'm all about chasing your dreams. That was my whole thing going out of college. Like, I want to do this whole sports media radio thing, right? And I was all about chasing my dreams. I don't care how much money I'm going to make. And he literally told that same exact story. And I'm like, oh shit, he's got me crying. But here he is wearing Juan Uribe's number 5 and Josh Harrison's number 5. That was the first thing that started buzzing when Vinnie tweeted out the uniform picture, was that number 5 was taken. He said that it's taken from Josh Harrison's number, and Rick was quick to say, Josh Harrison gave up the number. So we're not sure if the player option is being declined or picked up here. What do we make of Pedro Grifol being number 5?
Oh, no. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, to me, just from a looks standpoint in this photo, he reminds me of James Franklin, the Penn State head coach.
Yeah.
Yes.
Maybe with a little Tito Francona. I'm not sure. Maybe I'm just thinking that because I want to throw some baseball in there. But, he's I like the chrome dome, shiny up top, and he's good looking in number 5 there.
If James Franklin and Tito Francona had a child in Miami, it would be Pedro Grifol.
Yes.
Okay.
And there's no A-Rod in there.
Yeah.
No weird purple lips. Come on.
One thing too is like, Rick said, he was like, I'm gonna introduce this. We're gonna do the jersey awkward jersey exchange, and then Pedro's gonna speak. It was such an awkward jersey exchange.
Oh my goodness.
Pedro couldn't get the buttons undone. He was like fumbling with the buttons. I think he was like mumbling to Rick, like, man, what kind of buttons do you guys use here? Like, man, the ones in KC are a lot better. But like Rick's looking at like this, like the side. So if he's staring straight, he's looking at his left side the entire time. And like a child, they have to be like, Rick, look forward. Rick, we're going to take your photo here, Rick. So that's
Probably
why Rick kind of looks a little
like, oh God, I hate this.
An awkward cheese there from Rick Hahn in that photo, just because I don't think he was comfortable taking that photo.
Now, I think that, I'm sure they had to go to Josh, even though Josh has a team option coming up, and I'm sure the White Sox are mulling it over, and it's not an easy decision for me. I think it's a pretty easy decision. You let Josh Harrison go on the free agent market with the availability of be able to re-sign him if you want to, because he is not necessarily gone from you once you do not get that option for him. But I always find it odd, firstly, for managers to wear uniforms. Managers and coaches wearing uniforms is weird because they're not playing. I understand the etymology of this. I understand that they were player managers back in the day, so wearing a uniform was necessary. Now it's not. Just wear a warm-up. Wear Sox-colored warm-ups. All managers and coaches, so you can differentiate. It looks weird when Dusty's wearing his uniform. He's got the damn wristbands and the toothpick. What are you doing? Would you see like Matt Eberflus and some helmet and shoulder pads on the sidelines? Is he about to go and play? But also, if you are going to get a uniform, get a number that no one's going to get. Get 93. I know these White Sox, they're a little tough because of the 79 and the 74 and the 88 already taken, and Manny Ramirez is 99.
Well, you were just hired in 2022. Why not be 2020 or just be 22 and take Tony's old number?
Just get a different number. So no player, there's going to be a free agent player, I guarantee, that comes to the White Sox. I like the number 5, and why do you have it, Pedro Grifol? Get your ass out of here.
Oh, my God. Is Brandon MO5?
No, I don't know he is, but that's a number that people would look to and say, hey, I like that number. That number looks good on my back. So, Pedro, get that shit off your back. But, yeah, it looks all right. What is he, 22 or something?
Brandon Nimmo's 9, so he's not wearing it anyways because of Minnie.
Oh, yeah, so he might have to go to 5. So, yeah, I just don't like managers in uniforms. It's weird. And you barely see a manager in-game in a uniform. They're wearing the overcoat or the sweatsuit over the number anyway. So, get rid of managers' numbers. I want to start that. If I become commissioner, first thing I'll do, I know Vinny doesn't like it, pregame interviews with the managers, gone. Then, second thing, managers and coaches not wearing uniforms anymore. Gone, out of there.
Right, and actually, I like this point from Anthony Shulo. And the thing about the managers wearing baseball uniforms, I'm fine with Pedro wearing one because he wore one to a wedding. This guy's been wearing. I mean, he probably wore one to his own wedding. We don't have pictures of it, but when he married his wife, was he in a baseball uniform?
He's like, I got a game after this, baby.
Right,
doubleheader.
We're gonna do a quick hour here, then we're gonna have a 3-hour break, and then I'll meet you at the reception at like 6:30. But the comment here from Anthony Shulo at the bottom. Seeing a lot of fans in the comments saying, I'll believe it when I see it. Enough with the pessimism. Can we just celebrate the victory of our Sox acting like a baseball team? I think this was the biggest takeaway that I had from the White Sox. Rick Hahn spoke about the hiring process and the interview process. They had a drawer, or quote-unquote drawer. I think it might be fake. But, you just picture a drawer. Rick Hahn wanted you to picture a drawer where they had a bunch of files pulling out, right? And it was stuffed to the brim, and they had 24 names. And then after talking with some people, it got up to 30. And then they interviewed 8 people from 7 different franchises. And then they had a second round of interviews, I think, with a smaller group of people. And then they had finalists. Pedro obviously came out of the top of that. So I think the most interesting thing, though, was, there were some internal candidates, Miguel Cairo being one of them. But Chris Getz was a part of the interview process. He was a part of the first round. And I know that some people were bringing him up as a potential manager, but it didn't seem like he was really getting that. And then when they were asked Rick and Pedro about the coaching staff that will come with him, Rick did confirm that Ethan Katz and Kurt Hassler will stay as pitching coach and bullpen coach, respectively. Charlie Montoyo will be joining the staff as the bench coach. We'll get to more about the comments that were mentioned about Charlie Montoyo, because I think that might be a little bit interesting there. But he will be joining as the bench coach. And then all the other staff positions will need to be figured out. JJ Piccolo, the Royals general manager, said that obviously now that with Pedro being hired, the White Sox and Royals might have to talk about some coaches going from the Royals to the White Sox. So that's something to watch out for. But Rick did say that, they like to look inside, but likely it's going to be an outside hire for all of these positions, which, mercy, I'm a fan of.
I'm glad that Rick really introduced or admitted that they're too insular. I mean, he globalized and said 30 teams are too insular. I think it's more the White Sox are the most insular team. And then, yeah, there's other teams that could be that. If you're the Astros, why wouldn't you be insular? You're the Yankees, Dodgers, other successful teams.
Plus, all got to know about the cheating. Keep that inside.
Exactly. I mean, they were cheating the other day with Framber Valdez. I'm sure they were cheating last night with the no-hitter. By the way, did anybody get hyped about a combined no-hitter in the World Series?
I didn't even know what happened.
It's just so passe. Like, I saw it. I was like, congratulations, you won a game.
Oh, my God.
I didn't even care. But he said that they needed to get a reality check of their whole organization. I'm glad that he's listening to you guys out there. Listen to the fans who are finally voicing their opinions of like, this organization is fundamentally flawed. We need outside the organization. We need DNA that is not White Sox because all of our stuff is tainted. And Chris Getz sitting on in these interviews, firstly, he's not qualified for the job that he currently has. He's doing.
I don't know about that.
What did he do before that?
What did Pedro Grifol do to be the minor league organizer or whatever? He had the same job as Chris Getz did in the Mariners.
Yes, but he had did like minor league managing. He had did other stuff.
I don't know
before
about
this. He had done the work before. Area scout. Chris Getz is now the run. He runs the minor leagues for the White Sox. How well the minor leagues doing for the White Sox, Sean?
Well, he's not picking the players, and also,
I understand.
but also like coming in. Don't give me that look. Don't give me that smile.
Yeah.
The White Sox, like before 2022, had the worst farm system in the league, and now it's like 25th. It improved. It's not better, but it improved, and I don't really think Chris Getz's fault. People were very intrigued by Project Birmingham. I don't know if you could just take shots here at Chris Getz. Chris
Getz did not deserve the job that he's currently in. He shouldn't be in the interviewing process for the new manager. He's the minor league coordinator. Get out of here. I understand your previous relationship with Pedro Grifol, as Chris Getz was a player down there when Pedro Grifol was still with the organization. Congratulations. But I'm glad Rick went outside the organization, got ideas and how to prepare for games and how other teams prepared for the White Sox. He admitted that this team was different from the 1920 and early 2021 years to the end of 2021 to this whole 2022 season. People had admitted to him, it's like, it was easy to plan versus you guys. You guys were lazy. You guys lacked energy. We were just like, okay, we can beat you. As you can see with the Royals record versus the White Sox in the last 2 years, 10-9 each of those years. They beat the White Sox when it came to head-to-head and nowhere near the talent that the White Sox had. This is what Pedro Grifol said in the whole interview process. It's like, if we play with energy, we're winning. Right. We knew the White Sox were not going to be playing with energy every night. They weren't going to bring it every night. So it was an indictment of Tony La Russa, indictment of the White Sox organization as a whole without saying the names. And I loved it. I love that Rick was man enough to admit that his organization is flawed and that going outside the organization would be the best thing for this organization moving forward to get those opinions to make some change. That was what I felt about this whole thing.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
How did Rick slide this past Jerry? How did this happen?
Well,
that's what I'm wondering.
So what we heard was that there was a final interview in Arizona with Kenny, Jerry, and Rick, and all three men unanimously picked Pedro Grifol. Also, Rick mentioned that Jerry, after the process was done, Jerry said that the process was like the Bulls process of hiring Arturas Karnisovas and Mark Eversley, and then which led to Billy Donovan. So obviously, Rick Hahn in this case would be AK or Mark Eversley, but in a way, Jerry seemed approving of what happened because he's approving what happened with the Bulls.
I am shocked, but it's cool.
That's good. That's good. And maybe just like the Bulls situation, hearing the fire Tony things gave some impetus for maybe going in that direction, but Tony unfortunately got ill, and that was the departure. I wish he would have got fired on his own volition because he earned that firing.
Oh, he sure did.
He earned that firing like a mother.
Here's the thing. I was listening to our guys, Dan Bernstein and Lawrence Holmes, on the score driving in, and Dan Bernstein said the biggest question he wanted an answer in this press conference was, what is Tony La Russa's future or current status with the White Sox, that was not asked. Nope. It was a 3-year contract. That was year 2. Is Tony La Russa still somehow involved in this organization? As Dan said, when Tony was in this organization, he was the second most powerful person behind Jerry Reinsdorf in this organization. That question still hasn't been answered. It seems like he's not around. It seems like he's still taking care of himself in Arizona. It seems like they have parted ways, but that has not been confirmed.
No, I mean, if he's just a front office guy with very little say so, I'm fine with that. Like a
GTFOTLR.
Like a glorified figurehead where they just pay him money and he thinks that he's making decisions. He's saying stuff to Jerry, he's saying stuff to Kenny, he's saying stuff to Rick, and they don't let that message get down to Pedro. Fine. Otherwise, no, get him off our team. As Lauren said behind the mic, I don't want to hear from Tony La Russa ever again in White Sox circles. As Kenny said back when he was talking about Frank Thomas, stay out of White Sox business.
Yeah, and Kirk saying, I thought it was confirmed that TLR recommended Grifol in the first place. That is, I don't think, true at all. Mike Shirley has a connection with Pedro Grifol from the minor leagues when they played. Chris Getz has a connection with Grifol when he was in the Royal system. I don't think that was ever
I also
said.
think Tony did say he was all good. He was A-okay.
Well, I think George Brett talked to Tony La Russa, and that was the thing that confused people was then George Brett mentioned Tony La Russa and everyone was freaking out. I just think George Brett and Tony La Russa had a separate conversation because those guys are both baseball men and whatever. There's a lot of respect there for George. So yeah, I just think it was that. I just think that George Brett, who also knows Pedro Grifol, who also knows Tony La Russa, who also apparently loves to drink,
and loves to poop in Las Vegas.
Oh, Jesus.
Great story. Awesome story. If you guys don't know about the George Brett pooping in Las Vegas story, just check it out. George Brett shits himself, I think, is the story you can call it.
Yeah, I don't know if I haven't heard anything from Tony La Russa about Grifol, though, to answer Kirk's question there. Yeah, Melissa's saying George Brett said he told TLR, so I think just they had a conversation about it separately. But I don't think TLR is currently involved, but that hasn't been confirmed. And you mentioned, too, what Pedro Grifol said about the 2022 White Sox and about preparing to play against them, as he has been the Royals bench coach for the past 3 years. He said, quote, "It was a really difficult club to prepare for. If their energy was high, they could beat anyone in the game. If the energy wasn't, we were able to have success against them. Some success. They had a winning record. They were 10-9 against the White Sox in 2022. They were 10-9 against the White Sox in 2021. They were 10-9 against the White Sox in 2019. The only time they couldn't beat them was 2020 when that energy was high for those 60 games. So maybe
and just think about those damn Royals teams.
Right.
None of them were good.
Don't make you sad.
None of them were good. You just get mad at Mike Massey, Brother Rice's finest.
Right.
Ugh.
My guy.
Get mad at Naperville Central's Nicky Lopez.
I was just gonna say Naperville Central's Nicky Lopez, whose dad's in
and
the
Vinnie
Softball Hall of Fame.
Pesquitino.
We're getting rid of the whole Nicky Lopez thing. All right, we're making this a whole Mike Massey bit. If there's gonna be one local guy on the Royals, it's gonna be fucking Mike Massey, who played in Chicago.
That's right.
It's the Chicago White Sox,
Yeah.
99th at Pulaski, my friends. All right,
right.
take the drive.
That's
it's
barely
still
Chicago.
in the still in the area. You know, it's not Naperville.
This is CHGO,
Naperville.
not NPVL.
Thank you. All right. And you know what? That's why we have the best coverage for your favorite teams. So why not get fitted in the best sports gear around? FOCO has you covered from Soldier Field to the living room, north or south side, whether you're on 99th Pulaski, you're definitely not on 115th of Pulaski, because that's Alsip, my friends, and you're in Marist territory, and that's not Chicago. That's ugly. With hoodies, slippers, signs, bobbleheads, and everything in between, get decked out like DeMar with apparel from leaders in sports merch and collectibles. FOCO, F-O-C-O. Looking for the perfect gift for the football fan in your life? FOCO's got you covered with hoodies to fight that Lake Michigan breeze, my friends. So check out FOCO.com, again, F-O-C-O.com, or click the link in the description below. For all non-presale items, use promo code CHGO for 10% off. Don't use NPVL, all right? Use CHGO for all non-presale items to use the promo code for 10% off. Again, all non-presale items. And next up, we got Game Time. Herb's a big fan of Game Time. I'm a huge fan of Game Time. They're the hottest new ticketing site around that makes it easier than ever to score the best deals on tickets to sports, concerts, and shows. If you ever dreamed of sitting in a seat you never thought you could, maybe the 50-yard line, courtside, floor seats at a concert, it's possible with the Game Time app. The biggest last-minute price drops can be found on the seats you never thought you could buy. You won't be able to find a better deal this season on Bulls, Blackhawks, or Bears tickets. We have the CHGO Bears tailgate coming up this Sunday. You have the Chicago team taking on the Miami team. It's our official tailgate for that. We do have tickets still available at allchgo.com, but it's about a 15-minute walk from Soldier Field. So if you are looking for something to do on Sunday, I think it's going to be one of the last fantastic days to be out at Soldier Field. Sunday looking
yes, Shawnee, I've been told that it looks to be 65 degrees and potentially some sunshine. There was some talk of rain earlier in the week, but I believe that's cleared up now.
Your Tom Skilling is pretty impeccable.
It's fantastic.
I was told an hour ago that it was more of a Casey Kasem based.
I see Casey Kasem in there,
Yeah,
but
I guess it's in there.
I initially knew it was Tom Skilling.
I haven't listened to a lot of Tom lately, so I've just been doing that out of my
Do you
brain.
know Tom
great.
Skilling, his brother?
Oh, the Enron guy.
Enron guy.
Yeah, Enron guy.
Just like two divergent paths
Right.
in life. It's
really
amazing.
weird. But that starts at 8 a.m., so make sure you check out our
It's kind of like Skip Bayless and his brother Rick.
Bayless. So,
Yeah.
One's a D-bag, one's Rick Bayless.
There you go.
You know what I had at the Chicago O'Hare Airport, my friends, before I went to Las Vegas?
What?
From Frontera Grill by Rick Bayless.
the tortas.
And I watched some Skip on the plane. I'm kidding. I would never do that. But anyways, head to allchgo.com if you want to check out our tailgate. And again, if you're looking for Bears tickets this Sunday, head over to Game Time. It was created by the fans, for the fans, and they guarantee the lowest price. And if you love CHGO, then you'll love Game Time. The best way to support us is by buying your tickets through the link in the description. Join over 15 million people who have downloaded the Game Time app and score the best seats to all your favorite events. We will be having our guy Vinnie Duber joining us soon. The beat writers are getting to talk to Pedro, so he's getting a little powwow with Pedro, which should be fun. So what was the next biggest takeaway here, Herb? Because I think there was some interesting stuff. I know someone brought up the Abreu comment. I didn't read much into it. I didn't think that there was anything to glean from that. Just a guy who is new at the job that definitely didn't want to say anything about the franchise stalwart.
Yeah, I think the most thing I took out of the second most was the whole Charlie Montoyo thing, where Rick said it wasn't an arranged marriage. That shit sounds like an arranged marriage, because they asked Pedro before that question was asked, what experience do you have with Charlie Montoyo before? He's like, yeah, I talked to him on the phone a couple times, been on the field, blah, blah, blah. But pretty much that, he didn't hire him necessarily, but they said it was a collaboration of him and Rick Hahn coming to an agreement for Charlie Montoyo. As I said before, if you're hired for the job as manager and you're responsible for all the people in the clubhouse or in the dugout, you should hire those people out of your own volition, not, hey, we have this guy, would that guy be amenable to you? It'd be like, hey, you have this job, who the hell do you want? And even if that meant that Ethan Katz and Kurt Hassler doesn't come back, I would have been reluctant, but I would have understood. I was like, hey, that's his job. If he feels that he has a better pitching coach than Ethan Katz, good luck to you. But that's his job. He should be filling out the rest of the roster and the rest of the people who are on his coaching staff by himself, with the counsel from Rick and Kenny and them. Little counsel, but also, hey, these are my people. I get to go with my people. If you're going to be having me responsible for the record, I got to have the people who are going to be coaching with me, and I got to be comfortable with them. I remember when Robin Ventura got hired, they gave him Mark Parent, as if that Mark Parent was going to be the guy that helped shepherd Robin Ventura through the tough waters of the AL Central. And I think after a year or two, they're like, nah, Mark Parent sucks. And that's why they got Ricky Renteria, because he was more...
1988 Tops baseball.
Oh, yeah. Who was a Padre?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Parent was never a manager in the league. And the thing, too, is like, yes, that seems like a bad connection, but maybe there's something a little bit more deeper here. David Haw did ask for a little bit more clarity on what the Montoyo relationship was like. And Rick ended up saying that in the second interview that they started bringing up the name Charlie Montoyo, and that it was a very, he was a very sought after bench coach, or a very sought after person to bring into your organization, because the guy had a 500 record in the AL East. Which,
White Sox.
So White Sox, but White Sox wouldn't go 500 in the AL East.
Oh yeah, they would.
No, they wouldn't.
Yeah, they would. They
The
would just
AL East.
the White Sox
Orioles were handing them their lunch money.
The White Sox would just
I don't know if that's
get
a phrase.
adapted to the circumstances they're in. They'd be like, all right, we're in the AL East, time to be 500. We're in the AL Central, time to be 500. I don't know about that. AL West, time to be 500. That's what they are. I would venture to guess the White Sox all-time record is probably 500.
I think it's close. No, I honestly think it is. So the thing that I think is connecting or possibly connecting the two, Kevin Cash went to Florida State.
Yep.
Was the manager for the Royals or the Rays and has been the manager since 2015. His first bench coach, Charlie Montoya. Where did Pedro Grifol go? Florida State. So I do wonder if maybe there's a Kevin Cash connection there, and maybe there is a little bit of a Charlie Montoya connection there, where the big thing that he talked about was his presence in the locker room, his bilingual and ability to communicate with the players. I don't think that Pedro Grifol, whose one thing in the world is to be an MLB manager, is going to scoff at Charlie Montoya, who has a ton of experience in the game. And this is a guy, Pedro Grifol, who has managed a ton in the minor leagues. What Charlie Montoya is known for doing is being a minor league manager. He has the most, I think, managerial wins in history or something like that. Yeah. Most wins as a manager for the Rays AAA affiliate, the Durham Bulls. So he had 633 wins in Durham. Like, I just think that Pedro Grifol, as such a baseball guy, can find so much to respect about a guy like Charlie Montoya, where, again, if it's all about collaboration, if it's all about communication, that shouldn't be too much of an issue, because there should be enough respect between Montoya and Grifol.
Just before we go to Vinny, White Sox record in 122 seasons, 9,492 to 9,390. They're 503 winning percentage.
Okay, hey, they're not too bad. Let's head out to Guaranteed Rate Field. We got our CHGO White Sox beat writer over at Guaranteed Rate Field. We have Vinnie Duber joining us. You can follow him on Twitter at Vinnie Duber. Vinnie, first impressions on the new manager.
Well, I think you got to be able to say that he won the press conference, right? I mean, certainly everybody should be on board with a lot of the things he was saying. As he was talking, I couldn't help but think back to all those complaints that you heard from fans throughout the 2022 season, and it almost seemed like he was, addressing them head on. He used the words communication and energy and accountability and stuff that everybody was begging for. The big takeaway for me from today is that it is new. It is the White Sox getting what Rick Hahn said they needed, which was an outside perspective, an injection of new ideas, a something different from that insular White Sox DNA that we'd seen in all the other managerial hires prior. This is something that is going to be different about the White Sox, and I think that Pedro knew that, because what did he do right off the bat? He was promising, he was guaranteeing that the 2023 White Sox were going to play in a way, and then he listed all the things that you can expect from them, and it was all different from what we saw last year. So I really think that he was almost, you talk about that when you apply for a job, they say that you're supposed to write the cover letter and your resume based on the job listing. It really seems like Pedro did that today in his preparation for this press conference, when he was going through and listing all the things that he was going to do to this White Sox organization. It sounded like it was going to fill all those needs. And really, when you talk about what we've been talking about for weeks and months now, the kind of stuck situation that this roster might be in, and Rick Hahn even addressed it a very tiny bit today when he said, don't necessarily expect big drastic change coming to this roster. Then the improvement has to come from inside. The improvement has to come from the guys who are already here. And it sounds like Pedro was talking about getting the kind of play out of these guys that White Sox fans were begging for throughout a very disappointing 2022 season.
That list was too on the nose, in my opinion. That was way too, and when he ended on accountability, that was just too grand. I was trying to type it all up too, but it was just too much, like, to fit in a tweet. But it was, we got to earn the trust back of the fans, which is something Rick said in the press conference.
Fundamentally sound.
Got to play with pride and passion, which is a former trademark of the White Sox.
It was.
Like, there was just too much White Sox in that one. But he won me at that moment, because I was like, hey, he's saying everything right.
And speaking of that, I don't know if I've ever seen Rick Hahn that happy at a press conference. I mean, what was his mood, Vinny? How did you feel about, did we lose Vinny?
Oh, we lost Vinny. What happened?
Oh, no.
Boy.
Oh, no.
We'll try and get him back.
I was just about to ask him about Rick Cheesing from ear to ear. Here we
He's
go.
coming right back.
Grinning.
Let's try and get him in here. He's in the green room, and
All right,
Here's
Vinny.
Vinny.
Sorry,
Vinny
we
joins
lost you
us.
for a second. Rick was
he's
very
frozen.
happy today, grinning from ear to ear from
Hold
time
on,
to time.
He is frozen.
He's still frozen.
He's
Right.
frozen.
Oh, boy.
Vinny is frozen.
Let's.
I see his face
let's
right there.
Close him out again, and we'll try and get him back.
All right, we'll
here.
talk to Vinny in just a little second here. But yeah, winning the press conference, always an important thing.
And he did his homework. That's good. You need to know about White Sox tradition and their fans in particular to win over them because they don't want you're an outsider. Chicago is a very provincial city already where outsiders are kind of looked at with a jaundiced eye. He came in and he's like, hey, man, pride and passion. If he brought up like Waldo the Wolf, I know Vinny would be like, I'm in. That's my guy.
Well, yeah.
That's my guy.
I was just happy this wasn't like name that 1983 White Sox.
Ribby or rhubarb. I was like, hey, look at this guy, Pedro Grifol, knowing his whole White Sox. But my question was, have you ever seen Rick Hahn at a press conference so happy? And how was the mood in that whole room?
Well, I mean, listen, I saw the jokes on Twitter that he was the distinction that was being drawn from the last time they introduced a manager to now. But certainly.
No.
Damn it!
What's
What's going on at
so
G-Race?
promising? And he
What's
gave me the
happening?
lead-in I wanted.
They really found the guy that they had in mind here. You know, I think this is somebody that they really were blown away by. Someone who, I mean, and guys, Rick couldn't say no pun intended when he said knocked our socks off. Come on. I mean, I truly think that it happened when talking about that Pedro was the second guy they interviewed for the job. And in the 6 subsequent interviews, he kept comparing everybody to Pedro. So, I mean,
We're losing
All right.
Vinny.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
I
this
don't know
is-
what's going on at the G-Race.
they seem to find somebody here who they really, really wanted, and they went after it. I'm sorry for the technical difficulties here, too. I know it's skipping around
are you
a
in
bit.
3G today at the G-Race?
I might be.
I mean,
might
they
be,
did
but yeah.
They did have problems with the feed at NBC Sports
Yeah.
Chicago, too. So they had to cut out a couple times. So the internet might have been turned off for the winter.
But like you said, they were comparing Pedro to every single guy that they interviewed, and it seemed like he really did just win them over early and often. I do just want to keep talking about old press conferences really quick. Do we have? Oh, 1 second. I'm
Give
giving
me
1
1
second.
minute.
All right,
Give
we're
me
gonna
1
1 second. Never mind.
These are there,
But before we go into that, you guys had to. A little bit more with Pedro after the press conference. Was there much to glean from that little chat with Pedro a little bit more? And it looks like Vinny froze again. All right, so Herb, seems like we're going to be chatting with ourselves here.
That's cool. That's
Maybe
fine.
I'll do an ad read right now, and then we will see if we get Vinny back here. Vinny is not really in studio right now. That's why we're having these technical difficulties. But if he was, he would really need a pair of shady rays. This is such a bright and sunny studio at about
goodness.
3 p.m. when we're doing this show. That sun's going to be right in my face when I'm talking to Cody. But Shady Rays is trying to figure that out. They're trying to give you quality sunglasses that are affordable. They never understood why sunglasses were so expensive, so they set out to change it. You don't have to break the bank for quality sunglasses this fall because our friends at Shady Rays have you covered. Shady Rays are premium polarized shades featuring world optical clarity, substantial durability, and styles cater to everyone and every lifestyle. And the best part about Shady Rays, they have the most insane protection program in all of eyewear. If you lose or break your shades on day one, they told us they will send you a brand new pair, no questions asked. If you dropped it in a lake, maybe you dropped it off a cliff, maybe you dropped it off some other dangerous, very, very
What's something else?
precarious situation.
A
Maybe you dropped
canyon?
it off a building. Maybe you dropped it off what's it called? A patio.
We said when you're in Vegas that you're going to go to the Bellagio and see all the water spectacular and drop it into the water. If you do that, Shady Rays will give you your free shades back.
Lago de Bellagio. That thing is huge.
Yeah.
You could swim in that thing. And you could
Some
drop
do.
and
Great
lose.
idea to put a giant man-made lake in Las Vegas, which is a desert.
Right. There's so much water in that place.
Yeah, we're not in a drought.
No. And that's the thing, though. Even if you drop it in the lake of the Bellagio, Shady Rays is going to replace it. So they have over 10,000 or 200,000 5-star reviews because they make quality sunglasses that just look like the expensive pair that Herb shelled out for a while back. Not anymore, because he has Shady Rays. Exclusively for our listeners, too, you could take advantage of their deepest deal of the season. Use code CHGO for 50% off 2 or more pairs at shadyrays.com. You buy one, you get one free. You can get 2 pairs for as low as $54. Redeem only at shadyrays.com, where you can find all their newest and best shades. And our next partner is DraftKings. You could see in the top right, they are our they're our betting sponsor. And now, NBA fans, the wait's over. Basketball is back, so tip off the season with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. New customers can make any $5 NBA moneyline bet and get $200 in free bets if your team wins. If you bet on the Bulls last night, like I told you should, you would have gotten $200 in free bets. You could also take advantage of their stepped-up same-game parlays. You can boost. Everyone can boost their winnings up to 100% with DraftKings, with bigger payouts than ever. DraftKings Sportsbook is where I go to bet on the NBA. I also go there to bet on college football. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code CHGO and make any $5 bet this week and get $200 in free bets if your team wins. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook with promo code CHGO. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show description for more details. All right, let's try this again with Vinny out at Guaranteed Rate Field. Oh, fingers crossed.
Here we go.
Right.
Third time's the charm. If I strike out, I strike out.
All right, so let's just go right into the graphic. You mentioned old press conferences. You've been at a lot of these. You mentioned that we had old pictures of Rick, and we have old pictures of the great Who member. You are a founding member of a great 70s rock band back in 2020. Love the look. Where did this press conference rank? You had the Tony La Russa press conference. You had the Rick Renteria press conference. Now you have Pedro. Where does this rank in the ones that you've covered?
I mean, certainly for my look, I think it's below Tony La Russa's. But no, I mean, listen, I think everybody was shocked the last time we did one of these. And I think everybody was like, what is happening? What is this? What is going on? This time around, it's a little more by the book, I think. And I think you saw a guy who's getting his first shot at this, who's very, but very ready for his first shot. And I think you're seeing a guy who's very energetic about this. Again, I'm not saying Tony La Russa was not enthused about getting this job and this chance. He kept talking about how cool it was to get to step back into it and have a team that was built and ready to win like this. Pedro Grifol said the same thing. He's happy to be part of a team that's built to win and built to succeed. But he had a laundry list of things that they are going to do differently. And you could tell, listen, Rick Hahn's big compliment, big thing that stuck out about Pedro was how good of a game planner he was, how good he was at preparation when it came to offense and all of that sort of stuff. Pedro was prepared for today, and I think he's been prepared for a very, very long time, and I think that came through.
Any takeaways from where you and the fellow beat writers had a separate interview with Pedro Grifol? Any takeaway from that conversation?
Again, I think prepared, ready to get to work. He said he's one thing he said to us was, man, he was just outside on the field. It would have been a nice day to play some postseason baseball today on the south side of Chicago. The main thing, and I'll be writing about this later, but the thing that he said was this White Sox team reminds him of where the Royals were in 2013 before they went back to back-to-back World Series. And a lot of White Sox fans are going to go, huh, what? They're supposed to be a lot better than that. And he said that this team has won a division in 2021. But he said in 2013 and leading into the Royals back-to-back pennants there, it took somebody coming in from outside the organization to tell the Royals how good they were, to make them realize, hey, you're capable of doing this. You're really, really good. That person was Raul Ibanez, who was a player at the time. And Pedro said that Raul held a players-only meeting when he first got traded there and was like, get ready to go because you guys are good and can do this. And when he was done telling that story, I go, can you be that guy for this White Sox team? And he says, I can be that guy. Absolutely. Nice. And so I think coming in from the outside, he's going to be the guy that tells the White Sox what they haven't been hearing from the inside. And Tony La Russa was a very unique situation, right? Because not only did he have, you can talk about White Sox DNA all you want, but he had Tony La Russa DNA. You know what I mean? He had done this before. He had won before. He knew what had worked in the past for him. I think this is a much different situation in which it is going to be, hey, here's how we're supposed to play. Let's go figure out every single way possible we can do to play the way that we're supposed to play.
Yeah, it just seemed like a lot of expectations or a lot of pressure, and I understand Tony La Russa was supposed to be the guy that was supposed to be able to take that on, but he didn't really have that, I think, touchstone to today's game because of that absence of being out of the league for so long. But that's, again, why, that story about Raul Ibanez, why people thought of him as to be a great manager. But when you're speaking about that Raul thing, it reminds me of Elvis Andrus coming in here and being like, hey, you're the most talented team I've ever played on. What the hell? Like, let's go. They kind of had that a little bit. So I do wonder how else they're trying to put that into the White Sox clubhouse in 2023. If it is more player acquisitions, he did address Jose Abreu. Could we glean anything from that? Herb and I kind of said not really. But yeah, that was the only player that was brought up today, right?
Yeah, the only other one was in the separate session that we had with him. He did unprompted bring up Yoan Moncada. It'd be nice to get him back to a guy that walks 80 times a year. The incredible on base skills that he has, and try to do that more. So there was a lot of stuff that he was talking about in terms of offensive approach and talking to guys about things that they might not have heard of before or heard in the right way before. Some analytical stuff, some fun acronyms for you there, Sean. But I think to inform these guys a little bit more is something that he wants to do, and he thinks that it can work for this team.
The thing that I took away, besides the heartwarming story he led off with, is, I'm going to paraphrase, he said, if I'm the smartest guy in the room, I need to leave that room. It's a brilliant statement that's been said time and time again, but I believe that he believes in that, and he wants a collaborative effort between his coaches himself, the players. He even said, this is going to be from everybody. Everybody has ownership in the White Sox success, and it was good to hear that. And we were going to rag on Tony because it's different, where Tony said, I have an office, they have a locker room type of thing. It didn't seem like he was separating himself as, hey, I'm the boss and you guys are my underlings. It seemed like he was like, hey, we're all in this together and I just happen to be the manager.
Yeah, I think that he's going to come in. He used the word stickler a few times when it comes to fundamental mistakes. It talked extensively about how the Royals prided themselves on defense and base running and playing the right way, and pointing to that as being a reason they won the World Series in 2015. He said that works in October, that kind of thing. So you're going to see somebody who wants them to minimize these mistakes that we saw all too many times in 2022. He used the word accountability, but he said, when I asked him, what does accountability mean to you? He said it means giving these guys a voice, because if they don't feel like they're a part of this, then what are you holding them accountable for? And I think that that is maybe a different approach, but certainly everything about this is going to be a different approach. Even if there are some overlaps, I'm sure Tony La Russa and Pedro Grifol both know what it takes to win baseball games, and they're probably a lot of the same things. But everything about this is going to be different, and I really think that's the main takeaway from not just this hire, but today as well. Just this is new. This is newness coming to the South Side, and I think it's something that was needed. It's something that they've been talking about looking outside the organization and what they can learn. Rick Hahn said it confirmed a lot of the stuff that they thought were problems. This whole process, was confirmation, and that they had identified the right things that they need to fix. But now go take that one step further and bring in somebody who has some new ideas on how to fix them.
Yeah, the game planning part sounds the most interesting to me, just because how many right-handers, generic right-handers, did we see just go up against the White Sox and have the same game plan and have it work? So did we get a little bit more insight to how he developed the way he is researched or game planned, or what type of game planner he is? Do we get any insight that you thought was interesting from him about that?
I think it comes down to just having that knowledge base, and he really sounds like. Remember, Rick Hahn stood up at the end of the season and said, "We want somebody who knows how the game has evolved over the last decade, but is also in tune with the old school ways," kind of thing. And Pedro really kind of sounded like you threw those words into a machine and out popped a person in Pedro Grifol, who kind of
was going good there. For
Oof, man, he is falling
old
off a lot of
school
pitches
stuff,
down
so-
0-2. Oh, there we go.
He's back.
He's
Here, go
back.
ahead,
Wait,
Vinny.
no, he's frozen still.
There we go. There we go.
There he is.
But again, I just say a merging of kind of that analytical mind that people are thinking about that he's learned over years now, as well as that tried and true. Make sure you're catching the ball and make sure you're running hard and trying hard and being intense and all that kind of thing. So I think the White Sox got exactly what they were looking for, and we'll see if that translates into a championship-winning team. Again, Herb, I think we're on the same page here when we think the players have a lot more to do with it than the manager does. But certainly getting the kind of guy who can foster the environment that you want, that you think is going to believe to make that championship happen, is obviously a big plus.
Right. If he does everything that he's talking about, the White Sox should be pretty good, which is, because they have so much talent, which is, what you're saying. Like, you need an outside voice to go tell them how good they are, but also give them the tools to help them improve or give them the best heads up into that game. I do want to talk a little bit more about the actual interview process. Rick Hahn said they had a list of 30, then whittled that down to 8 names from 7 organizations. And then I think you mentioned, how many interviews did he end up having? 6? Am I wrong about that?
Well, I was referencing those 8 guys.
Okay. Gotcha.
Pedro was the second of those 8 that were interviewed, and he said that he kept thinking about Pedro as he interviewed the other 6, the remaining 6, I should say. Yeah.
Gotcha. And then after those 8, I know Rick mentioned that it wasn't then down to the finalists. What was round 2? Did they go down to 5? Did he mention the number that he went down to?
I don't remember a specific number that they went to a second round, but they had a second round of interviews with multiple people. I know that. So, yeah, I mean, you could probably count up a lot of the guys who were reported and fill up those 8 names almost all the way. Maybe not all the way, but a good portion of them. But yeah, I think, they were considering a lot of folks, and they were able to talk to 8 of them, and this is the result. So I think it's the search that White Sox fans wanted them to do. Obviously, I'm sure people had different opinions on where it ended, but I think this is the search that hearing from people outside the organization, I think this is exactly what people who wanted that. This is what they got.
Right, and even the part 2 where he mentioned when in the interview, or the first interview with Chris and Rick, he said it was like being 20 years or being back 20 years and being in a clubhouse and just talking strategy, which, hey, he had a long interview just like Ozzie Guillen did. So,
Yeah, and I wanted to know, I think it was early in the presser where he pretty much discussed how he plans on keeping these White Sox healthy. I like that he said he's going to have an individual approach with all these guys in spring training. What else did he say during that that impressed you, or that he said that he's going to be doing to keep these White Sox players on the field like they weren't in 2022?
Well, I'll say this. First of all, I'm not sure how much he has to do with that. You know what I mean? These guys were getting injured, and if you're injured, you can't play. But I'll say this. He did go in very in-depth about kind of off days, which fans hate, but they're very beneficial to players throughout the course of a very long 162-game season. And Pedro talked about scheduling them and letting the players know when they're coming. And I'm not saying that other managers don't do that. Maybe that's what Tony La Russa did. But the way Pedro framed it was, if they know that a breather is coming, they can keep giving you the full amount of their energy all the way up until there. Whereas if it's kind of a situation where they never know when they're going to need a day off or get a day off, they might start, dragging a little bit. And, he said, too, that those are good ways to figure out whether guys are giving you the intensity that you need from them. If they have a day off scheduled for a Sunday and there's an off day for the team on Monday and the guy is dragging it a little bit on Friday, that might be something that's not so acceptable in Pedro Grifol's clubhouse. So, it is something. I don't think there's going to be a situation where you're going to see every guy on this team play 160 games next season. It's probably not even going to be 150 for most of them because, listen, injuries happen. But there's a reason he was asked about it, because it was a gigantic storyline, not just last year, but the year before with this White Sox team. There's going to be a lot more that needs to happen and a lot more out of the manager's control to focus in on keeping these guys on the field. I think that's probably more of a front office, strength and conditioning type situation. But, there definitely is thought to just, needing a breather here and there. And I think Pedro Grifol is definitely going to do that. For folks thinking that they're only going to see the same 9 position players in every single game this year, I'm sorry. because Pedro was talking about how you got to use the whole roster. You got to keep your bench fresh, and you got to keep your starters fresh by using bench guys as well. So there's going to be a day when Leury Garcia starts. You know, there's going to be a day when it's not everybody that you'd plug into the fantasy lineup. But listen, that's baseball. That's not you getting the raw end of the deal as a fan. That's just how baseball works.
I think that's all I have for you, Vinny. The only thing I think I want to ask about would be the coaching staff that will be with Pedro. Ethan Katz and Kurt Hassler are remaining in their positions as pitching coach and bullpen coach, and then Charlie Montoyo was confirmed by Rick Hahn as the next bench coach. What can we take from the Charlie Montoyo hire, from what both Pedro and Rick said, and then also what can we glean might happen with the other positions like first base coach, third base coach, and hitting coach?
I'll take the second part first, in that it was very much implied that it will probably not be anybody who had that job for the White Sox in 2022. I think that there are still conversations to be had, and maybe and Rick Hahn said there are internal candidates to fill those roles, but he said that more likely than not, the vast majority of them will be filled by people from outside the organization. And to me, that was a pretty strong message from him that it is going to be a much different looking coaching staff next year, with the exception of obviously the two guys running the pitching situation here, and who have done so with very good success over the past two seasons. Charlie Montoyo, I think, is a very good news for anybody who's worried about a first-year manager, maybe being a little too far over his head with a team that's going to have championship-level expectations again in 2023. I don't think Pedro Grifol gave you any reason to believe that would be the case with him specifically. But hey, Charlie Montoyo, who's done the job not only as a manager in a very competitive AL East, but who did the job as a longtime bench coach in the very competitive AL East. This is a guy who's been there and done that. And I think to be able to have that guy and that experience to lean on for somebody who's never done this job before at this level is only a good thing. And so I think that you can just point to Charlie Montoyo's resume as something that's going to be a very big benefit for this White Sox team.
I think Pedro mentioned that he's only talked to Charlie a couple times before. It doesn't seem like they have a deep connection. Charlie Montoyo, though, was the bench coach on Kevin Cash's staff from 2015 to about 2018, and Kevin Cash played at Florida State, so did Pedro Grifol. Different eras, I think about 6 years apart, but they probably know each other, just being baseball guys. Do you think that's important that they don't have that deep of a relationship, or what is more important about Montoyo is that deep resume that you mentioned?
Yeah, again, it's new ideas, right? It's fresh perspectives. Like if you're just going to import the entire Kansas City Royals coaching staff, you're putting yourself at not a disadvantage, because obviously it's new to the White Sox, but to get as many kind of perspectives and ideas as possible, I think, is the goal here. And I think that it is in line very much with the big takeaway from this hire in general. Let's keep bringing in people who have done this before, who have observed from the outside, who know what they're doing from a baseball standpoint, and get them to work with this group. So it's not just the same old over again. And whether that's Grifol, whether that's Montoyo, or any of the other coaches that they bring in to fill some of these other jobs, I think that's what you got. Listen, Ethan Katz only been here 2 years. He came in and brought outside ideas into this situation, to a position, by the way, that had been the same guy for decades. You know what I mean? So it can work in any of those jobs, and I think the White Sox would be well served to bring in as many different kind of ideas as they can.
Yes, and whatever ideas Don Cooper is thinking, hopefully they're thinking the opposite, just because we brought up the pitching coach that was there for decades. CHGO Sports in the comments.
Just in general, too. Yes. Not necessarily regarding pitching, but just in general.
Fair. It is Lawrence put in the comments there. Appreciate everyone joining us today. Please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out anything as well. The one thing, too, the other name that you might want to add on to the potential list that might join the White Sox, Mike Tosar. He is currently with the Royals, currently the special hitting assignment coach with the Royals. He's like a lifelong friend of Grifol. So if there's one guy that I think is safe to assume would join the staff, I would say Tosar. But hey, that is the first pitch I'm swinging at. Maybe that will be strike one of my new count. That's Vinnie Duber. You can follow him on Twitter at Vinnie Duber. He's our CHGO White Sox beat writer. I'm assuming you'll have an article up at All CHGO today.
It's a fairly safe assumption, I'd say.
Okay, especially with you talking to Pedro. So check out allchgo.com and make sure you check out his Twitter at Vinnie Duber to see when that's posted. You can follow Herb Lawrence on Twitter at Ecknerwall23. He's our CHGO White Sox community leader. I'm Sean Anderson. You can follow me on Twitter at Sean_W_Anderson. We will talk to you all on Sunday. Thank you very much for watching, and congratulations to Pedro Grifol.
Yes.
It's nice to meet him. We'll talk to you on Sunday. Go Sox.